Alice weakly said. I am your companion. Skeleton Soldier fell into self-blame. If only he hadn't indulged in the illusion. How great that would have been. Finally escaping the dungeon, he looked around and found no one in sight. As he put down Alice and was about to break the arrow shaft, he noticed a figure slowly approaching from behind. Skeleton Soldier immediately turned to look back. The approaching person slashed off its left arm with a single strike. Who on earth is this person? Upon closer inspection, it was Ryan. Skeleton Soldier lost its left arm. He fell to the ground. He fell in front of Ryan. Ryan looked at him as if he were an ant. Disdain filled his face. He gave a cold snort. Then he turned to accuse the Lord beside him. What on earth is going on? Just this kind of trash. Wasting half my day. Meanwhile, Lord was breaking out in a cold sweat, trying to defend himself. Originally a powerful necromancer, a single sentence from Ryan left Lord ashen-faced. He had provided false information. Then you should commit suicide to atone for your sins. Lord trembles all over. They want to continue to say something while facing the Blue Lion Corps leader in front of them. He couldn't say anything. He didn't dare to show the slightest disobedience. Then he pulled out the dagger with a trembling hand and held it against his double chin. Ryan changed his tone, mixing kindness with severity, and said, All right, just kidding. How could I let you end it yourself? Truly, if I let you end it yourself, no one would dare to report anything in the future. Lord breathed a sigh of relief and knelt on the ground, hurriedly expressing gratitude. Ryan turned to leave. I've got other things to attend to, so I'll be going first. You handle that woman. Skeleton Soldier struggled to stand up. Ryan frowned. Skeleton Soldier raised its sharp sword to block in front. He was thinking about who this could be. Can I defeat the opponent? A red window pops up. The skill, Intimidation, has been activated. It turns out I have no chance of winning. Forget it, I don't care anymore. Before the opponent draws their sword, I'll make the first move. At this moment, reinforcements have already arrived. He must seize every second. Strike first to gain the advantage. With a snap sound, Skeleton Soldier knew he had lost. His sword broke. His full force strike did not cause any damage to the opponent. Ryan let out a cold snort. He then raised his sword high, preparing to finish off the Skeleton Soldier. Skeleton Soldier knew that it was impossible to escape death under the suppression of such a high level. Just this one sword strike. It took away Skeleton Soldier's vitality. When the sharp sword descended, red warning windows kept popping up. It all highlights Ryan's strength. Before dying, Skeleton Soldier. He wondered, is this what it means to be strong? Will Alice die too? It's time to start over again. I can see Ruby again. What will happen next? This is a work by Necromancer. The skeletons he summoned. His rise to become the Skeleton King is depicted in this fantasy comic. Skeleton Soldier descends system. From then on, he had a cheat code. His attributes do not disappear each time he is reborn. Who gave him such a magical power? Let's quickly chase it together. You can like and save the video. Start watching from the first episode. The main feature begins. Continuing from the last episode. Skeleton Soldier. He was waiting for the thunder and rainstorm to arrive. Then, he woke up. What came into view was. It was not the familiar forest shrouded in thunderstorms. Under him was not that familiar coffin. He sensed something was wrong. He looked around. This place did not look like the previous graveyard. Nor did he hear Ruby's call. Instead, there was a snoring sound. Alice was lying on his lap, sound asleep. In front of the reborn Skeleton Soldier. The blue window popped up as usual. And the words indicating that the starting point had changed were so glaring. He would never see Ruby again. The cave was quiet and warm. Alice was immersed in her dreams. Skeleton Soldier was in a daze on the side. Compared to the water droplets dripping from the stalactite, what he wanted to see more was the forest amidst a thunderstorm. Skeleton Soldier thought of the tragic death of Ruby. He couldn't help but cover his face in sorrow. He had originally wanted to become stronger, so he could protect her well. Would he ever be able to see Ruby again? At this moment, a ding sound interrupted Skeleton Soldier's thoughts. A new window popped up. Having experienced death 5 times, his bonus feature was enhanced. The necromancer's affection for him had increased. He looked towards Alice. Was he mistaking her for the necromancer? Then he remembered. Alice had previously sacrificed herself to save him. He secretly vowed to repay her well. Thinking about the situation when they were later attacked, he quickly woke Alice. He prepared to take her away before the intruders arrived. Alice followed Skeleton Soldier's instructions, and the two of them immediately left the dungeon. The moonlight was as soft as water. Skeleton Soldier decided to go to the E-level dungeon, but Alice suggested going to the D-level dungeon, because the E-level dungeon was empty. The expedition team must have already been there. Skeleton Soldier trembled slightly upon hearing expedition team, then asked Alice if she knew a man with bluish-gray hair and wearing blue armor. Alice replied, "It should be Marquis Ryan. He is from the Blue Lion Knights. This group is one of the best among the Knight Orders. He is also one of the 4 greatest sword masters of the Empire." Skeleton Soldier was quite shocked after hearing this. What? One of the 4 greatest sword masters? Why would they come to such a small place? Without any information, he could only stop guessing. Alice suggested at this moment to go to a nearby village first to prepare for the next dungeon, buying some antidotes and firebombs to deal with the poisonous spiders. She also wanted to take a bath while she was at it. The sun rose from the continuous mountain range. The two arrived at their destination. Alice's joy was evident. Skeleton Soldier's expression was serious, because this place, Narlan, brought back bad memories for him. Alice found that the Skeleton Soldier seemed somewhat unnatural at this moment. She thought he didn't like humans. She then said that she could go alone. The Skeleton Soldier resolutely refused her suggestion. He wanted to go with Alice. Alice looked at the suddenly enthusiastic Skeleton Soldier with some surprise. She suddenly ran to his back. She put a cloak on him. Skeleton Soldier said he didn't need it. Alice smiled and said, "It just needs to look good." At this moment, someone spoke up and stopped them. Like and follow. This is a work by Necromancer. Summon Skeleton. Fantasy comic about a skeleton that rises to become a skeleton king. Skeleton Soldier, descending system. From then on, there was a cheat code. Attributes will not disappear with each rebirth. Who gave him such magical power? Hurry and join me in chasing it. You can save the video. Start watching from the first episode. The main feature begins. The people stopping them are the soldiers guarding the city. He stepped forward to collect the entry fee. He has bad intentions. To inquire about Alice's situation. Alice is extremely clever. She is holding the arm of the Skeleton Soldier. Smiling, she says she came with her handsome husband. The soldier sneered, and then let them into the city. Skeleton Soldier asked insensitively, "Who is your husband?" Alice dismissed it coquettishly. As soon as the two entered the city, they noticed something unusual. Alice keenly detected the smell of banned drugs. This isn't the black market, it's the central area. It is evident that someone has used banned drugs to control them. Not only that, the residents here include children. They all watched the two of them warily. The atmosphere was quite odd. Alice noticed something was wrong. She quickly pulled Skeleton Soldier to look for an inn. The two of them flirted with each other as they moved forward. At this moment, however, someone was secretly observing from the shadows. Afterward, the two arrived at the inn. They were greeted by a beautiful woman with a fine figure. Skeleton Soldier looked up and down. Is it a new person? There didn't seem to be a snake-shaped pattern on her neck. At this moment, the beauty noticed Skeleton Soldier observing her and jokingly remarked, "It seems like the night, sir. Do you need any services other than food and lodging?" Alice listened and glared at him angrily. And Skeleton Soldier looked bewildered. The steel-hearted straight man still didn't understand the subtleties. After a whole night's rest, Alice, full of energy, hummed a song. She dragged Skeleton Soldier to the grocery store to buy props. Meanwhile, Skeleton Soldier spent the whole night guarding outside Alice's door, afraid that she might follow in Ruby's footsteps. Then Skeleton Soldier seemed to discover something and turned to look, but saw nothing. He became even more vigilant. Then the two of them arrived at the general store. The shopkeeper, somewhat impatient, said that the antidote and fire bottles were all sold out. Alice changed her request to buy some other common items, but the shopkeeper still said there were none. Skeleton Soldier listened quietly to the argument between Alice and the shopkeeper. He looked helpless. In the end, the shopkeeper issued an eviction order. "Get out!" Alice, fuming with anger, was about to explode. The Skeleton Soldier stopped her and said, forget it. Let's go." Alice muttered as she walked. Meanwhile, someone from the shadows followed the two of them. Like and follow. This is a work by Necromancer. Summon Skeletons. A fantasy comic about the rise to power as Skeleton King. Skeleton Soldier descends from the sky system. From then on, there was a cheat code. Attributes will not disappear with each rebirth. Who gave him such magical power? Hurry up and chase along with me. You can collect videos. Start watching from the first episode. The main feature begins. Just as he was about to take action, a sharp sword was pressed against his neck. You thought you wouldn't be discovered? At this moment, the soldier recognized that this is the blacksmith near the village chief's entrance. And he questioned him, asking why he was following both of them. The blacksmith seemed to have foreseen this situation. He turned and left, telling them to follow him, and indicated that staying here would be very dangerous. Skeleton Soldier asked in doubt, "Why is this street dangerous?" Blacksmith replied that it wasn't just the street, but the entire village that was dangerous. They then followed him to the blacksmith's shop. The blacksmith calmly poured himself a drink. Skeleton Soldier coldly questioned his motive. Blacksmith actually knew they were going to the spider web region. Alice was somewhat surprised. He then took a big gulp of the drink in his cup. He said, "The tools you bought, everyone can tell where you are going. You won't be able to buy antidotes and fire bottles." Skeleton Soldier asked in confusion. "Why?" Blacksmith replied, "Because those spiders are raised by the Lord and the guards." Alice asked the reason. Blacksmith said he didn't know either. But he knows that the village is gradually dying. Since the previous lord unexpectedly died, and the new lord took over, the guards have all been a bunch of brutes. Since then, they have made the villagers take banned drugs, causing them to become addicted. Then the villagers sold their property at low prices to the lord to buy the drugs. Although some rational people raised objections, they were all thrown into the spider pit, including his wife. Blacksmith hopes they can help him get revenge. Skeleton Soldier snorted coldly and asked, "Why should we?" Blacksmith's next words left him utterly shocked. "Aren't you here for revenge too? The armor you're wearing was made by me." Earlier, a young lady mentioned that she wanted to give the armor to someone she cherished very much. After hearing this, Skeleton Soldier clenched his fists tightly. Blacksmith stated, "A lone traveler. They will all be targeted by them." Skeleton Soldier became even angrier after hearing this. He had already lost his mind. He grabbed Blacksmith by the collar and roared, "You know," Blacksmith helplessly expressed, "I have been timid and cowardly all my life. I am old now. If I had the ability to resist, I wouldn't have lost my wife." The atmosphere was somewhat serious at this moment. The three of them remained silent. Skeleton Soldier released Blacksmith, who then informed them that the guards were leading the criminal to the spider cave. He then rummaged through the cabinet, trying to provide them with a weapon. Alice was greatly shocked when she saw this thing. This can't be, she said. Blacksmith responded, could it be that you recognize it? This is my masterpiece, the one that even water cannot extinguish, Flames of Glassmere. Like and follow. This is a work by Necromancer. Summon Skeletons. A fantasy comic about a comeback as the Skeleton King. Skeleton Soldier, Heavenly System. From then on, there was a cheat code. Attributes do not disappear with each rebirth. Who gave him such magical power? Quick, come with me and let's chase together. You can bookmark the video. Start watching from the first episode. The main feature is starting. A group of criminals wearing shackles is being escorted by the guards to the spider cave to provide an extra meal for the spiders inside. Skeleton Soldier is hiding in the trees with Alice, observing. Then the two followed and watched the guard squad. They arrived at the entrance of the spider's dungeon. Alice then suggested having the Skeleton Soldier carry the secret weapon. The Skeleton Soldier remained silent. He looked at the equipment. His thoughts returned to that evening in the blacksmith shop. Alice stared at the thing in disbelief. Judging by her shocked expression, it was clear that this flame had a significant origin. It was in the glass mirror of the craftsman's city. This thing is also very rare. This is also according to the secret recipe from Blacksmith's hometown. He spent his entire life to concoct it. This is the only bottle. Then Blacksmith took out the accompanying device. He handed it to Skeleton Soldier, who was quite curious about the device. He wanted to study it, but was stopped by Blacksmith. Once this fire starts burning, it is impossible to extinguish it. If it is not stored in a bottle with ice element magic, it can burn for at least 10 years. Then he took out a bag of fire retardant from the cabinet, handed it to Skeleton Soldier, and told him that sprinkling it on himself would keep him from feeling the heat. Originally, he planned to use the flames on his life's masterpiece. But if those demons can be annihilated, masterpiece or not, it doesn't matter. The memories came to an abrupt halt. Skeleton Soldier drew his sword and entered a defensive stance. He let Alice take the flame device first. Then the two of them entered the dungeon. The cave is eerie and strange. There are numerous entrances. Spider webs can be seen everywhere, signaling to intruders whose territory this actually is. The two cautiously groped their way forward. Alice glanced around. She lamented that the previous dungeon was not as good as this one. Skeleton Soldier remained silent. He was pondering why it was so quiet here. After the guards came in, it seemed as if they had vanished. Not even a ghostly shadow could be seen. The terrain here was uneven, and there were many crossroads. At this moment, Alice interrupted the thinking Skeleton Soldier. You? What exactly is your relationship with that woman? Skeleton Soldier turned and left after listening. He said perfunctorily, Nothing much. Alice obviously didn't believe it. Aren't you the person she values the most? It's just mutual use. I just didn't protect her well. Alice didn't continue to question. She knew that Skeleton Soldier was not as he claimed to be. She then stopped him and held out her necklace in front of him. Skeleton Soldier asked in confusion, Why are you giving me the necklace? Alice said unnaturally, I'm not giving it to you. I just want you to help keep it safe. Skeleton Soldier still doesn't understand the girl's thoughts. What they didn't know at that time was that someone had already regarded them as a meal on the plate. Like and follow. This is a work by Necromancer. Summon Skeletons. Fantasy comic about reversing fate to become the Skeleton King. Skeleton Soldier Heaven Sent System. From then on, there was a cheat code. Attributes do not disappear with each rebirth. Who gave him such miraculous power? Let's hurry and chase it together. You can bookmark the video. Start watching from the first episode. The main feature begins. The spider web above rustles. Something drips onto Skeleton Soldier's head. He touches it with his hand and feels incredibly sticky. Looking up, he sees an enormous spider. It is staring at them, drooling. Alice is startled. She quickly draws her dagger to prepare for self-defense. As a result, she gets her ankle entangled in spider silk. Before Alice can react, she was hung in the air. The Skeleton Soldier immediately reached out, wanting to rescue Alice. Anxious, he immediately swung his sword towards its forelegs. Just as he was thinking about how to cut through the spider web, something was preparing to ambush him from behind. The Skeleton Soldier had just sensed it when he was kicked to the ground. He quickly got up, but was knocked down by a pouncing spider. He grabbed the spider's front legs with both hands to prevent himself from getting hurt. Then he looked at Alice. Suddenly, there were countless small spiders. They moved closer to Alice. The situation was extremely dangerous. Skeleton Soldier plunged a sword into the spider's head. One strike, instant death. He just heaved a sigh of relief and was about to go rescue Alice. Countless pairs of eyes glowing red in the darkness were staring at him, and Alice's situation was even more dangerous at this moment. She threw the dagger in her hand. She dealt with a small spider. But the situation was still dangerous. She couldn't move. The swarm of spiders was about to devour her. Skeleton Soldier faced many dangers here as well. The swarms of spider monsters kept him too busy to take care of himself. One spider after another took turns attacking. It left Skeleton Soldier in a fluster. He continued to swing his sword and attack. At this moment, a spider monster spat a web, which wrapped around his ankle. He was just about to swing his sword to cut the web. However, his sword was entangled by another spider's web. Skeleton Soldier was also caught in a stalemate at this moment. Then, the spiders started spinning webs one after another. They entangled Skeleton Soldier, making it unable to move. At this moment, the Skeleton Soldier was like a fish on a chopping board, at the mercy of others. He kept struggling. But there was nothing he could do. Were the two of them going to die here? Can Skeleton Soldier turn the tide? Stay tuned for the next episode. Like and subscribe. This is a series by Necromancer. Summon Skeleton. Fantasy comic about a comeback as the Skeleton King. Skeleton Soldier descends system. From then on, there was a cheat code. Attributes will not disappear with each rebirth. Who gave him such magical power? Come and chase along with me. You can save the videos. Start watching from the first episode. The main feature begins. Continuing from the last episode. Just as Skeleton Soldier was at wit's end. The spiders are preparing to attack and end his little life. A burst of fire flared up, driving back the attacking spiders. Skeleton Soldier saw Alice holding a flamethrower and provided timely support. Turned the situation around. Then wave after wave of fierce flames rose. Alice did not hold back at all. Barbecuing spiders is really satisfying. Skeleton Soldier hurriedly inquired about her condition. She almost died there. The blood flowed backward when she was hanging there. Just as Alice was narrating, there was a spider behind her, poised to move. Skeleton Soldier promptly warned her upon seeing the situation. Alice, without hesitation, turned and sprayed. Another roast spider was made. The other spider monsters, seeing this, also retreated repeatedly, afraid that the fire would burn them. Alice, holding the flame-throwing equipment, began to intimidate the remaining spiders. The spiders, recognizing the situation, scattered in all directions. Alice remarked that this equipment was truly powerful. By observing the direction in which the spiders fled, the two of them understood which path to take next. Alice cut the spider silk entangling the Skeleton Soldier. The spiders that were burned to death by the flames contributed to the level up of the Skeleton Soldier. Alice also smiled and took credit. Skeleton Soldier expressed gratitude, and Alice suddenly fainted on the ground. Skeleton Soldier looked down to check. It turned out that Alice's neck was bitten by a spider. She was poisoned. If the poison is not removed quickly, I'm afraid there is a risk to her life. Just then he heard a sound. The unusual sound of a spider. This sound is exactly that of the dungeon boss Spider Queen. The Spider Queen is being repeatedly forced back by the guards holding torches. The Skeleton Soldier is hiding in the shadows, observing. It seems what the blacksmith said is true. They are indeed raising spiders. Just in case. They must be carrying the antidote. We need to find a way to steal it. Only to see a blue-haired man arrogantly threatening Spider Queen. I have been feeding you all along. Behave yourself for me. Otherwise, I will burn all your children to death. Look closely. There is also a snake-shaped pattern on the blue-haired man's neck. So he is the guard Captain Skeleton Soldier who is still observing from the shadows. He remembered everything from the past. The cause of Ruby's death. It is all related to one person. It is the scum standing in front of him, who has committed countless evil deeds. He clenched his fists tightly, unable to suppress his anger. At this moment, they were feeding the spiders. A new recruit was somewhat puzzled as to why they didn't just kill these people, but instead came to this foul-smelling dungeon. The person next to him scolded. Stop with the nonsense. Follow the orders. The Skeleton Soldier quietly approached this new recruit. A scream of agony rang out. The guard captain turned to look over. The Skeleton Soldier held the new recruit hostage. The new recruit trembled. The guard captain was somewhat puzzled by the situation. The Skeleton Soldier gave him a choice: hand over the antidote. In that case, will the guard captain compromise?